Yes, I'm in a new location today. Hope you like it. Hope the sound comes through all right. I'm in a new location because I have the entire house to myself. I don't know what to do. I will most likely read, get a hot cup of tea, and or fall right to sleep. Hey Booktube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March. Why haven't I read any of these books yet? I don't know. I've been on Booktube 4 years now, and I watched Booktube about a year before that. So these are books that I have seen in multiple different places, multiple channels. I have not heard or seen one negative review about any of these books. I could be wrong. You could have read any one of them and thought it was crap. Let me know in the comments below if that's true. But all of these books are because of Booktube. I think there was only one that I owned or even knew of before Booktube. And it's going to be the first one I talk about. But why have I not read these yet? I've had 4 years. 4 years! Okay. The first book I'm going to show you is a book that I was aware of long before Booktube. But when I started, it seemed to be like almost mandatory to be a booktuber to read this book. They weren't going to give you your membership card if you hadn't read this book. So I slid in, right? I was grandfathered. No. But this is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Why have I not read this book yet? This is, what's the name of the estate? Manderley? Yes. And it's right on the top of the, oh, geez, I'm crow. So this is a gothic story of a new wife coming into the home named Manderley. Why have I not read this book yet? I can't even imagine that I'm not going to love it because of everything everybody else has ever said about this book on Booktube. So many booktubers have read it and loved it. The same with this next one. This one, I had no idea. Was totally unaware about this author or this book. This is Stoner by John Williams. Do I need to even tell everybody what it is? I know of booktubers that are reading it right now and just absolutely adore it. This is the story of William Stoner. You know, it's really easy to read the title Stoner and think of something else. It's true. But this is William Stoner who develops a love for English literature and I believe becomes a professor. And he embraces a scholar's life. That wasn't what he started off doing. That wasn't what his father wanted him to do. But that's what he ends up loving in life. Why have I not read this book yet? How many times am I going to ask that in this video? So, yeah, it's a classic story of university life. The next one, this is a fairly, not a new release, but this was written in 2013 or copyrighted 2013. This is We Need New Names by Novella Bulawayo, and she is well known for her novel Glory, which was in the Booktube Prize a couple years ago. But this is the story of 10-year-old Darling navigating their shantytown in Zimbabwe, and it's basically a story of their immigration to the suburbs of United States and their experiences here. I don't think one review I've ever seen has been negative. Yeah, so I would really love to get to this. And this is what I love. It's a paperback copy with giant font. I'm going to love reading this book just because of that. This author has, since joining Booktube, quickly become one of my favorites. I've read 2 of her books so far. And this is Mr. Flood's Last Resort by Jess Kidd. I read her first novel, Himself, which I loved. And I read Things in Jars, which was so fun and so unique and interesting. But this one I want to get to. I absolutely love that cover. This is the story of Maud, who is a caregiver, and she is caring for an elderly man who is a hoarder. But as she's trying to provide care and navigate his house, there's also a paranormal aspect to the story, and that's kind of all I know. but it's just kids writing, which I love. She's an Irish author. She's so funny. Her writing is so humorous, and I'm really looking forward to getting to that. This one is science fiction. I've heard this on so many different channels, booktubers that I love and trust. This is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. The first, I believe, in a series. And this is the story of Rosemary Harper. She joins the crew of the Wayfarer. She isn't expecting much, but she ends up finding a spot to call home. And nothing can be further from what she's known than the crew of the Wayfarer. Nothing would stop me from picking this book up, but I've had it. I've had it since the beginning of Booktube when I first started hearing about it. Why? Why have I not picked these books up so far? You know why? Because the world is filled with so many amazing books. And Booktube introduced me to so many books and authors along the way over the last 5 years. And I can't get to everything. I haven't had time to get to everything. But another thing I want to really sincerely attempt to do in 2024 is get better at picking. And I do like to take chances with books, and I do like to try new things, but I've had some duds, and I think that's partly why is I tend to try something new, but what I should do is listen to myself. I know what I want to read. Sometimes I pick away from that for the sake of trying something different. I'm going to stick with what I know about myself going forward more often. This one is a book that was in the Booktube Prize a few years back. 10 minutes, 38 seconds in this strange world by Eilish Shafak. And this is the story of a sex worker who is murdered in Turkey and her body is thrown in a dumpster. But her mind does not die for 10 minutes and 38 seconds. And she's basically going over her life in that short amount of time. It's a story of her. It's a story of her friends, her friend group, and relationships. But it sounds intriguing to me, and it has since I first heard of it, since it first came out. When was this published? It was published in 2019. So I think this was in the first Booktube Prize for Fiction. And just kept hearing about it everywhere. The next one. This is an author who writes a crime series. She also has several standalone novels. This is one of them, but I do believe there's a sequel to this or a connected novel to this. And this is a book that I found at a library sale for $1, $2. It's Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. It still has the shiny cover on it. But this is the story of a woman who is born and dies, over and over and over again, and it's kind of a Groundhog Day situation, maybe. I'm not really sure, but I've just heard about the originality of this story, and Kate Atkinson is a remarkable writer. I've heard so many things about this book, and really want to get to it. It's a hardcover with deckled edges. I love those. So Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. This one is a recent release, actually, and it sounds so original. I believe it's a debut as well. Yeah, it's a debut novel, and which is interesting because I've heard nothing negative, and I've heard everything glowing from booktubers that I know and love. This is The Bandit Queens by Perini Schroff. This is the story of a woman's husband who disappears. He just disappears one day. And everybody in her community thinks that she murdered him and dumped his body. And instead of being afraid of her, maybe some people are afraid of her, there's also a certain element of women who come to her saying, hey, could you help us figure out how to get rid of our husbands too? I've heard it's such an interesting topic for a novel. I've also heard it's super funny, great writing, great story. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to all the books. I think this is the one nonfiction book I have in the stack. And this one just, the topic, the idea of this, I started hearing about this book early on in Booktube before I was making content. This is Lab Girl by Hope Jaron. This is the story of her life as a female scientist. She founded several labs working with plants, plant life, soil, and it's more than just a book about science. It's her life. And the things that she went through as a female scientist, the things that she endured, the work that she did, her emotions, her relationships. I'm all in for this book. And I also heard that it was a spectacular audiobook. So I believe I already have this audiobook. So I may kind of go back and forth between audio and physical book. That's kind of, sometimes it's the best way to do it, because I also heard that as she narrates it, and I heard that her emotion comes through in her narration. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. After my current audiobook, I might go right to that one. The last book is, this is the only booktuber I've seen a lot of these other books on other booktubers' channels, but this one is specifically because of Britta. These are books all because of Booktube, but this one is because of Britta. Had no idea this book was out there, never heard of this author before Booktube. This is The Last Samurai by Helen DeWitt. This is another book. I got it for 50 cents, and it's hardcover with deckled edges. You know I love those. If you've watched my channel at all, you know I love the deckled edges. I'm all in for the deckled edges. Paperback with French flaps and deckled edges. Absolutely. #1 format. This is the story of a boy named Ludo who is intellectually gifted and is consumed with a movie about samurais. And his mother works very hard to keep his brain active, to keep his precociousness, his intelligence, keeps thinking of ways to keep his brain active and working. But he's also just consumed with samurais, and he is dying to find out who his father is. So he finds 7 men, and he wants to put them through these samurai exercises to weed them out, to see if he can find his father. It's way more, the story is way more than that. That's what I know about it. I think that Helen DeWitt is going to be an author for me, and yeah, I wanted to read you the first few sentences or the short paragraph because it immediately makes me think this is going to be a Kim book for sure. My father's father was a Methodist minister. He was a tall, handsome, noble-looking man. He had a deep, beautiful voice. My father was an ardent atheist and admirer of Clarence Darrow. He skipped grades the way other boys skipped class. He lectured my grandfather's flock on carbon-14 and the origin of species, and he won a full scholarship to Harvard at the age of 15. This is screaming, it's a Kim book. I'm a Kim book. Read me, read me. It's screaming at me. So let me know in the comments below if any of you have read any of these books, if you think I should pick up one first or before any of the others, and I will take all of your ideas into consideration. I'm not going to promise anything. I want to read all these books. It would be lovely if I could do that this year. I have a lot going on through March, so I'm not sure when I can get to them. I have a whole other list of books I want to read in 2024. I don't know, maybe I'll just add this. Maybe I'll have 34 books I want to read in 2024. Who knows? But let me know if you have any thoughts about any of these books in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.